What you
It
got?
comes up again.
Hey, Mark,
Hey, Mark.
is that Mark or memory?
That's him. That's him, man.
You look great.
Mark, is John coming?
Trying, man.
Did he say he wasn't?
Yeah, right.
Dinner, maybe it's a Zoom that, it's 5 pounds. I have that Zoom filter.
Oh, God. Click handsome.
We had a Zoom, all hands Zoom call, and our team in India was on. It's about 100 people on the Zoom, and this one dude is laying in bed and he's on his phone on Zoom. And 100 people on a Zoom. Everybody, you hear ping, 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 ping. Everybody's pinging each other. The dude's laying in bed. So, and my boss is running the Zoom. I'm like, we got nips in the bud, because she's talking and presenting and she doesn't see it, I'm like,
Yeah.
It was a 2-year-old guy was like 2 years out of college or something.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, is he deathly ill? That would be.
He didn't realize his camera was on. I'm like,
Margaret, is this thing?
It's gonna take a minute.
Yeah.
I don't usually do it right away.
what's 2 minutes.
Yes, no? What's that?
What this is the-
We're good to go? Okay. We're going to call this meeting to order. This is a public meeting of the Planning Board of the Borough of New Providence, County of Union, State of New Jersey. Adequate notice of this meeting has been given in accordance with Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, and that an annual notice of revision was made in conformance with Section 13 of the Act. Roll call.
Chairman Lesnowich,
I'm here.
Mr. Castagna,
Here.
Mr. Kaminsky,
Here.
Mr. Jamansky,
Here.
Mr. Hofling,
Present.
Mr. Kane is not here, Mayor Morgan,
Here,
Mr. Sartorius.
Here.
And Ms. Torsiello will not be here.
Okay. Pledge of allegiance, please stand for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. So first up is the resolution for 309 South Street LLC, which is Block 222, Lot 14, in the C1 Special Commercial District in New Providence. It's preliminary and site plan to approve 15 townhouse units and 34 parking spaces and other upgrade site improvements. Everybody's got to see that.
No, nobody's gotten to see it because I haven't drafted it yet. So,
Wait a second. I thought you had.
You saw the
then what was the
notes.
thing you? Oh, I read something. I know what I read. Never mind.
yes.
Never
So
mind.
we will carry that to our next meeting.
Okay.
I already talked to Steve Malenik, so he's well aware of it.
Okay. All right. It was the other thing. Never mind. Never mind. All right. All right. So here we have a public hearing for Helen Raylis. Did I say it right? Rallis. Thank you. Thank you for correcting me. 55 Southgate Road, Block 341, Lot 2.01 in the A2 Affordable Housing Zone of New Providence. Chapter 310, Article 4, Section 31060 for permission to construct a deck per resolution of 1990-12 that no addition or expansion shall be permitted without a board approval.
And for the record, Mr. Chair, I did review the notice. It was sufficient as to form and content, so the board does have jurisdiction.
That's okay. And then, so please come up, and I think we understand what's going on, but please state your case. And
Let me just swear you in.
Okay.
Raise your right hand.
Yeah,
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. And your name and address?
Helen Rallis, 55 Southgate Road.
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, so if you'll, I sent some pictures around if you see what's going on in our backyard.
Your
have-
deck-
let's just
your
mark-
deck needs replacing.
Yeah, yeah.
So if we can just mark the photographs of exhibit A1, just for the record.
So it needed replacement, so we figured we could make it a little bigger. We don't want to do anything overwhelming or anything like that. It's just, it's maybe this big now, and we want to do double this way and then maybe almost triple this way, right? We've gotten permission from our immediate neighbors, and the pictures also show the size of the backyard and the fact that we're facing, basically the train station parking lot. And then where the bush is on the side here, there's a big kind of yard which leads to the street, and then there's apartment building. So I don't think we'd be bothering anybody with a bigger deck. Basically, that's if I don't know what I would need to add to to convince you guys that it's a thing that we want to do.
Yeah, basically, right now you have steps and a landing.
Yeah. It's not great. And also we'd like basically something with the doors. We just got a dog, so it's for him to hang out and look at the squirrels.
How big is the existing landing?
It's like 4x4. Oh, the actual
Yeah.
top of it. Yeah, it's like maybe 4x4.
So it's 16 square feet already, and so the difference between 16 and 88 is the
Yeah.
change.
I tell you, the only reason we're seeing this is because of the resolution passed in 91?
Yeah.
90, and, I don't know what the purpose of that was, but this is really,
The only question I have.
this makes no sense that we don't approve it.
They also don't
You
have
know?
neighbors to the north. It's a parking lot.
Yeah, right.
And what did you take a look at what the measurement was from the back?
I think they have it drawn on here. It is,
Yeah, there's a picture.
yeah, so from the corner of their house to, I think that's the lot line of the overall tract, not your individual lot, is 36 feet. So it looks like from the corner, it's probably maybe 28, 30 feet about to the, yeah.
To the parking
And the
lot.
majority of the square footage is going along the house, not out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
It's going along the patio, it looks like.
yeah.
Yeah, well, that patio needs to go too. The whole thing is.
I think it's an improvement.
Yeah.
Yeah, a big
Yeah.
improvement.
And the only reason it's before us, and I don't, would it even have gone before, if this wasn't in part of the resolution, would this even have gone before the Board of Adjustment?
Technically for rear yard setback.
Yeah,
that's what I was
Yeah.
But
thinking,
that was,
Yeah.
because that says it's
But-
down to 6.25 to the lot line.
Yeah, and then there's like a little bit more to the fence.
Yeah, and a lot more to the.
Yeah.
This would have been one of those technical things.
Yeah. well, Mr.
I don't have any more questions.
Me neither.
I've got a question.
Sure.
Is there some reason why you put the stairs perpendicular to the building toward the lot line instead of alongside the building?
So basically, I didn't want the stairs to go into a tree. Because like if if you go along, then the stairs will go directly into the bush that's there. So a person would have to kind of.
You can see it on this one.
Yeah.
You don't want to go into the bush.
And also, that would have angled towards your neighbor, correct?
Yeah.
So this actually takes them away from their neighbors, opening it up a little bit.
Well, actually, the way it's drawn on the drawing that I have is the stairs are coming off of,
Up the
as
front.
you look down the right side. So
Currently.
if they were to come alongside the building, it wouldn't, I don't think it would go as far as the tree or the bush.
Oh,
Got to add the deck in, and then it would come down.
No, if you look at the drawing, see the stairs are coming off the right side, not over here at the left, which would go into the bush. So if you
But if you look at the other side, isn't there?
There's a bush on the-
Tree right there.
if you look
A
at the
huge tree
picture,
right there.
yeah, there. See, if you look in if you keep going past the chair, here, let me show you.
On each side of that, in each side of that land. there's
Which one, the
a
picture
bush.
or
Yeah, so this is the way it currently
Right,
is.
right.
So if you look at this one,
Mhm.
if you extend the deck outward, the stairs are gonna go into
No,
there.
but here your drawing shows the stairs coming off the end. So if you were to come down this way with the stairs, that would maintain, it would be less
Oh,
closer to the property line. The bushes over here probably wouldn't hit that. And the other bush you're talking about is on the other, is this one back over here.
Yeah, I don't have a personal objection to that.
I don't necessarily have an objection, just curious as to why you wouldn't do it that way.
So you would have it come this way?
The
from-
same direction. as the
Same
window?
direction.
Same direction, but off the front, if I understand right. So
No,
if
you
this is
want
the
you to-
deck,
you look-
like this way.
Do you have the drawing that she has of the proposal? See, they have the stairs going toward the property line.
Yeah.
Instead of doing that, start at the same place, but have them going alongside the deck, going down to the left.
Wouldn't you have to have an extra landing though to be able to make the turn?
Yeah, probably.
I
Okay,
mean-
again, not necessarily an objection, just wondering why we wouldn't do it that way.
It was, when we came up with the plan, it was a kind of a straightforward thing. We weren't thinking that much about it.
Well, my only thought here is that you are blocking more of the egress back and forth by having the stairs come within 6 feet of the property line. If you had them coming alongside the deck, you'd probably take several feet off of that and allow more passage.
Oh, okay. But it would just be along the bush. I
Okay,
think.
the other thing, is it gonna go into that window then? If you made it against the house? If you
No,
had
not
it-
against the house.
He's not saying go against the house. He's
I
saying
know, but
that-
if you stick it out like that, that's, I don't know.
He's saying make
I don't
it
think it
go,
really matters. I know.
he's saying
that-
make it go left, but then you'd have to build the landing.
Come down.
And
here
so the
this
only-
way,
you're
the
saving a
stairs are
couple
coming
of
down
feet.
this way Alongside the deck. So
'Cause the
you're
landing
not
has to
going
go out for you to
toward the
make the left.
property line, you're running alongside the deck, the bush is over here.
Doesn't matter.
Wouldn't that make the deck bigger?
Well, I think that's good input.
I think, yeah,
So
I see what you're saying.
So if we're okay with it going out towards the property, and the homeowner feels that turning it would be better aesthetic when the builder's building it, we're okay with that?
Either
I
way.
I think so. I think it's gonna be about the same,
Yeah.
maybe a few feet less, because if you put the stairs going to the left, off of the deck, you're gonna have to build a landing so you could go out and make the left. Right? So what's the difference between the stairs and the landing width to be able to make the turn? So you're saving maybe a couple
foot or 2
feet,
right?
but
right.
now you have more coverage
Right.
of
More square
of
footage
other.
deck.
So to me, it's 61 and a half
Yeah.
dozen of the other. I would say if this is the plan you're happy with, I don't
Keep
think
it.
we would require, unless.
Well, the other
the rest
thing
of
is
the
you
group
need a
agreed, I think
landing.
we'd be
You
okay.
need, you'd have to
need a
build an extra
landing.
landing.
You need a
Yeah.
landing off the steps to be able to make the turn.
Right,
Yeah, I know.
yeah,
Width of the steps, right?
yeah,
It costs more to build that way.
right, because you have to put footings in and everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you need a
Okay.
landing and then the steps and that.
Yeah.
If you would prefer to do it either way,
I
I
prefer it
don't
this
see-
way.
I like the way they have it.
This is
Yeah.
less coverage.
I
That
think
would
we
be a
should,
bigger
I
deck.
think we should leave it alone.
Yeah.
That's,
That's
yeah.
and if, yeah,
Yay.
Open it up to the public.
any other questions?
Unless you're requesting to change it.
No.
Okay.
Open to the public. Anybody in the public have a question on this or no? Seeing none, we'll close that.
Mr. Chairman,
Do we have a motion? motion?
Make a motion that we accept the plans as distributed.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Hold on a minute, we're not doing comments?
Hmm?
Don't you have to open it to comments?
We did.
We just did.
I thought it was questions. Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh, you did say questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I said open up,
Keep
yeah,
doing this.
for anything.
Okay,
Or comments?
Questions, comments?
so Bill, you moved it?
Yeah, make a
The
motion.
mayor moved it, I seconded.
Okay. Mr. Castagna,
Yes.
Mr. Kaminsky,
Yes.
Mr. Hofling,
Yes,
Mayor Morgan,
Yes,
Mr. Sartorius,
Yes.
Mr. Jermanski,
Yes.
and Chairman Lesnowich.
Yes. Well, thank you. Thank you for coming
for
in.
coming.
Thank you.
Good
So,
luck.
Good luck.
so now what do I do?
Now, now you go we'll have a resolution and you'll go to the, back up to the building department and.
Okay, great. Thank you.
okay.
Thank you.
Call Keith.
Yeah. All right.
That
next
wasn't
up-
too bad, right?
All right, next up is the adoption of the open space. Well, thank you for
Good night.
coming. Night. Adoption of open space and recreational element of the master plan. Kinley, you're gonna give us a show and tell of the summary of what we all read.
Let's see if I can. Margaret, are the screens on?
Is it, do you need me to turn it on for you?
Hold on, let me pull up my.
I'll just trim this whole thing before it leaks all over. Oh, shit. It's a crack or something.
Oh, there it is. On that.
Margaret, you are so
Yeah,
awesome.
Talented.
I know.
Wow.
I'm
I
impressed.
thought we had incorporated an adoption of amendment to this
Mhm.
a couple of years ago. I guess not.
No, it
That was
hasn't.
part of our
This,
master.
yeah, I'll mention that, but this particular plan hasn't been touched since 2006.
Since like almost 15, 20 years or something. Right?
Long time. So everyone has a copy of
Yep.
this.
Mhm.
Oops, what's happening? Sorry.
I looked at it.
I have a few extras if you.
As long as it's good. Got it here.
Is that what you
We
wanted?
can just see it this way. We got. Anybody else?
Okay. Please, thank you. I'm an old fashioned guy.
And I know some of these slides have a lot of text, but I figured it needed to be a bit of a standalone document for everyone to read it as a summary. So I'll just hit the high points on the slides. All right, so we have before us a new open space and recreation plan element. The borough has been working on land preservation, open space recreation for a long time. Your Open Space Trust Fund was established back in 2004, which has helped acquire and maintain open space here in the borough. For this particular plan, the year is wrong. I'm so used to just typing. We had a public outreach meeting November 29th of 2022. I apologize, not 2023. And of course, tonight is the public hearing on the plan to potentially adopt it as a master plan of the borough's, an element of the borough's master plan. It would replace the 2006 plan. So the purpose of an open space and recreation plan in this capacity is associated with the NJDEP Green Acres programs. So the Green Acres requires an updated OSRP be adopted every 10 years to be in conformance with their program standards. They update the requirements of their program every so often. I believe the current set is from 2019, but it certainly are different requirements from what was around in 2006. The borough last adopted 17 years ago, so it is time for an update. While this acts as a master plan element, it's different than the rest of the master plan elements we review, since this is not guided so much by the municipal land use law, but rather by those Green Acres rules and regulations that we were talking about. An up-to-date plan that's been adopted by a board and approved by Green Acres allows the borough to seek funding to continue to maintain and operate and potentially acquire additional open space and rec. That one of those programs being the Planning Incentive Program, which is a good grant program with a very low interest rate. You have to have an up-to-date plan and an open space tax to be able to apply for that incentive program. Also, without an updated open space and recreation plan, if the borough wishes to acquire additional property for open space, you would have to go through a very specific process called a site-specific acquisition application, which is a lot more cumbersome than if you have your adopted up-to-date OSRP. This plan almost acts as a pre-application to that. So even though, and as you probably know since you've read this, we don't have particular targeted open space properties recommended in this plan because there's no plans right now to acquire additional property. 5 years down the line, though, if something becomes available, the borough can seek funds to acquire that. And because your plan is up to date, the process is much smoother and quicker than if you had to go through a site-specific application. So the specific purpose of our plan, this is just taken straight from our plan, is to provide a framework for the protection and preservation of open space and recreation opportunities, as well as a realistic path for implementation. The 6 sections there are really the 6 main sections of the plan. Everything except for the funding opportunities section is a required section of the Green Acres program. Funding opportunities, we listed a lot of the available opportunities for the sake of information, but the other 5 are required to be included in this plan. So changes from the 2006 plan, and I'll touch on them a little bit throughout my presentation tonight, but generally the demographics of the borough have changed since 2006. We don't have census data from 2006, but we do from 2010, and we know that generally the borough's population is aging. More people are choosing to stay here into retirement instead of leaving or downsizing in a different community. Just as there is in all of our communities when we update these, there's always new recreation trends. Pickleball and cricket have become wildly popular here. Could be something else in 5 years that we've never even heard of. There's constantly changing trends. There's been an increase in borough-owned, and I should say borough-owned open space properties. So at the time of the 2006 plan, the borough owned about 169 acres of open space, whereas now it's about 190 acres. And the increase in that, the 20-ish acre increase, is due to the acquisition of the Becton Dickinson soccer field and a couple properties at 132 South Street, adjacent to the park there. Additionally, there's been a significant increase in major storm events that have caused flooding to the borough. There's always been issues here, but we have certainly seen a lot more major storms in the last 17 years. I'm not going to read all these because this is a lot of text, but these are the new 2023 open space goals. If you look at the 2006 goals, they are very similar. We expanded on them slightly and again modernized them for what's currently happening. Specifically, there was some more focus on identifying opportunities to enhance flood resilience through open space, because again, that's become a much more important task here in the borough. If you have specific questions, we can go back, but you guys have them all in front of you. So this map shows, and again, this map is in the plan. I can zoom in if anyone needs it, but the open space is broken down into 4 categories. We have borough-owned open space, which is about, again, 190 acres. County-owned open space, which is predominantly along the Passaic River and the parks there, which is about 80 acres. Privately owned open space, like the Crestview Swim Club, is 22 acres, and then public school properties account for about 58 acres.
So just in that last one, privately owned, can you give me an example of that? And what I'm looking at is if you go up to Mountain Avenue, the front of Bell Laboratories, now Nokia, whatever it is that part of a 22 acre? No?
No, because it's not.
What would privately, give me an example.
Sure. So like the Crestview Swim Club, it's a membership club, but they have swimming.
Right.
There's the Clearwater one. Those are open to the public should they choose to purchase a membership. The Nokia properties are private properties,
Right,
and
right,
they are vacant, but they're not open to recreation opportunities at this time. At
I
least.
guess for the borough, we should add Lions Park too.
And Lions Park is in here.
They're just examples. She had in the main.
Oh,
in the
okay.
Oh
main-
yeah, sorry, they were just
in the
listing
main,
examples.
Document that's in there.
Yeah, these were just examples, but correct. We list them all
Actually,
out
if
in
you
the
look
main
at there, you can
document.
see it.
So when you look at a field, and I'm staying up on Mountain Avenue, when you look on up there and you see a field that they play soccer on, you see space that they land helicopters on, you see, grass and stuff like that. That is because it's privately owned. It can't be part of any regulation or rezoning or
Well, it
probably
could-
rezoning.
It
right?
could in the future, and I'll get to that because we do
Perfect.
target that area a little bit. It's just right now as part of the current inventory, we can't count it,
Right,
but it
I
could be a future, correct? It could be a future acquisition. Which leads us to the formal inventory, what the DEP calls the recreation and open space inventory. These would not include the private recreation. It would not include the county properties, but they are the municipal borough-owned properties. You'll see some of them are not included from this the previous map, but again, these are supposed to be borough-owned properties. And again, I can even read you. It's lands. It could be so. To your question, Bill, it could include lands that are owned. I'm sorry, lands that are leased by the borough for use of open space. So if it's a private field that the borough has entered into agreement with, that would count towards this. But we just don't have that at this moment. Constraints and opportunities from an environmental perspective. This is a map of the landscape project. So in 1994, the DEP began this landscape project to help conserve and preserve wildlife habitats. The 2006 plan stated that there was no known special threatened or endangered species habitat within the borough. The current and best data set shows all of the yellow and brown and orange colors in here shows special habitat. So either the database has been expanded or new habitat has moved into the borough. The landscape project ranks these habitats 1 through 5, 1 being habitat-specific requirements, which means the land meets the requirements for a habitat that would be conducive for a threatened or endangered species, but none of those species have been identified. The way they're identified is either visually by people doing field inspections, also land use, land cover, identifying a particular vegetative cover that would be appropriate for these species. So along, you can see these tendrils here. I don't know if you can see my mouse there. These tendrils here really follow the kind of waterways. Yeah. So again, those lands would be appropriate for certain threatened or endangered species. They just haven't been spotted. There's also rank 2 habitat species, which are just species of special concern. Those are shown in this orange. We have them up here by the Clearwater pool facilities, a few patches around. There are no ranks 3 or 4, which are state threatened, rank 3, state endangered, rank 4. We do have quite a bit of property that's rank 5, which is federally endangered and threatened species, bald eagles being one of them. And that means that somewhere in these brown areas, and there's more than just bald eagles, but there's been several identified threatened or endangered species on the federal list. So that's elevated beyond just the state list. And it's good to look at these constraints really as opportunities for preservation, future preservation opportunities, or see where things exist now and ensuring that, for example, if we wanted to update equipment to a park, perhaps there is a way to update it to help the species beyond just playground equipment for humans, ways to support their habitat. This map shows the special flood areas. Again, I'm sure this is no surprise to everyone, mostly along the Passaic River and the tendrils that come out into the borough. As we said before, storms have significantly increased over the years. And the natural intersection between preservation and open space, it really does promote resiliency. The benefits of preserving land in these areas include increased air quality, significant stormwater management opportunities. Resilient parks are becoming something that is quite popular and very effective because you don't even know that they have stormwater management as a part of them, and they design them to make them look like play equipment almost. So there's significant opportunities there to help with, through open space, help with the flooding issues that we see in certain areas. Next, we move on to a needs analysis. This is a requirement of Green Acres. A needs analysis was done in 2006 pursuant to those requirements, but the Green Acres requirements have gotten more sophisticated, I'll say. There was no requirement back then to do these 2 different analyses, one called a balanced use standard and one called a geographic service area standard. The first one being that there's a recommended from the DEP and Green Acres that every town in New Jersey have 3% of its total developed or developable land. So in other words, excluding streets and those types of properties that wouldn't be developed, a minimum of 3% be used as open space or recreation. And the borough has 17.3%. So you do far exceed that requirement. Doesn't mean we shouldn't seek other opportunities, but you are well within the means of that requirement. But the current model requires us to do a quarter-mile buffer from all of the recreation and open space opportunities, the active recreation and open space opportunities, to see where gaps in service basically would be. So we can see the borough is fairly well covered, actually. Obviously, we have a small gap up here in the north side of town, and There's Mountain Avenue, Bill, like you were talking about before, down here, kind of creeping in up here a little bit. There is, in this northern pocket, there is a borough-owned piece of land there. It's incredibly constrained by environmental issues. I think there's threatened and endangered species there. It is on the Rossi. It will not be developed. We don't count it here though, because this is specifically for, walkable, active recreation opportunities, so that someone in their home could walk to use a park, for example. So there is preserved space up here, but we can't use it in this analysis. There is missing ones down here. Again, just we're missing opportunities in these parts of town. Facilities for specific populations. This is part of the needs analysis that we also do. There's two, the first one being the senior populations, which was something that's been brought up. It was brought up in the public outreach process. It was also brought up when we were doing the ordinance update last year. And again, the population, while it's increased 11% since 2010 here, the 55 and older population has increased by 31%.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Not mainly due to Lantern Hill.
Exactly.
I think that probably is part of it. That
was 1,000 people right there.
there's quite a few people there. But generally speaking, we're also hearing anecdotally people wanting to stay in their homes in New Providence longer. And
Well,
part
we go back to how many years ago
Yeah.
we are in that demographic, a lot of us. That when this was originally done, we've moved into that demographic. That's the way life is. So there's a lot of people that I know that are staying and want to stay, who didn't either grew up here or came in later, and they're like, oh, it's a good town. And then their kids are coming in.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
think it's the Starbucks and the Chipotle. That's keeping everybody there.
It's a pizzeria.
I have been going to Starbucks before every meeting, so now that it's open late again. But yeah, no, that's exactly it, Bob. That's what's happening, and we're not seeing decreases in the other cohorts. We're just not seeing as much of an increase as the 55 and older population. So when looking at facilities for people who are aging, there are certain elements, and the plan goes into even a few more than these. These are just a few of them. But making sure there's access to the bathrooms. The bathrooms are clean. There's barrier-free. The walkways aren't creating tripping hazards. There's very specific material that you can put on the ground, again, that would keep tripping hazards at a minimum. Very small but impactful ways to convert space in one of the parks to be more senior friendly. And that was one of our recommendations in the action plan, was to do an analysis of each park to really see, and that's not the purpose of this plan, to do a park by park analysis of that, because that would be another step further. That would be an engineering analysis to really see, okay, do they all have ADA access ramps from the sidewalk? Is there additional signaling that could be needed? All of those things could be included in a future grant to help upgrade the parks.
This is a framework.
This is a framework, right? Yeah, we're really looking at broad, sweeping recommendations to help the recreation department and the borough in the future seek out money. And so these are examples of some things that could be done to help upgrade the parks to be senior friendly. The second specific population that we looked at is the what we call these completely inclusive playgrounds. There was a law passed in 2018. We call it Jake's Law, but it incentivized construction of inclusive playgrounds for children of all abilities, including any disabilities. There's very specific funding available to convert playgrounds to be all inclusive, and I believe that presenting an updated OSRP is one of the checklist items for that grant, and I do know that the Recreation Department is seeking grant funding in 2024 for that at Oakwood Park. And various improvements, again, I haven't listed here, but include lighting, fencing, accessibility benches. There's really great interactive playground equipment that's available out there. It's really incredible what they're doing now. So that's the second specific population where there's funding available through the Green Acres program to help update those parks. The strategic plan here is where we take that analysis of that quarter-mile walk and take a look at where opportunities lie. So some of these are not new recommendations. The greenways and blueway connections, that was part of the 2006 plan. There certainly are already some of those existing. It's good to keep those in mind. I mean, again, there's a lot of private property along these floodways, so it wouldn't be appropriate at this point to target any specific properties. But if something were to come along, it would absolutely be an appropriate use of funding. Same with the properties along the Passaic River Park. That might involve additional communications with neighboring communities, with Chatham and Summit. But certainly there's a good segment of the park, of the waterfront within the borough is already preserved. There are just a few gaps. So working to decrease those gaps over the years would be appropriate. Same with, this is the Murray Hill train station area over here. If there's opportunities for a small, we call them pocket parks, these kind of mini parks that could help fill some of the missing, some of the gap here in terms of the quarter-mile walk. And then, of course, the area along Mountain Avenue. I mean, we kind of circled this area, but really this whole stretch here could be a future target for a recreation facility. That would fill a really huge gap in the borough. Of course, the Watchung Reserve isn't far, but that's not going to be walkable for anybody. So that being able to keep that in mind, they're already lawns, but being able to target that for future development is critical. We do not have to have a recommended acquisition in this plan for it to happen in the future, but it is good, like we said here, to give these broader recommendations so that that's what's being considered when future development comes into these areas.
Has there been any discussion between the town and Nokia about those?
We just found out about it in the newspaper, so
About what?
about them
That's good.
leaving.
Well,
Oh, I
the
didn't know they were
question
leaving.
is, yeah.
Yeah, so I've been on the phone with Angie Devaney. We've been talking about different things, but they're not leaving until 2028. So, there's a lot to go through. And there are opportunities.
Yeah.
Let me put it to you that way.
That's great.
So
Does Berkeley Heights have a current updated program like we are looking at for ourselves?
do they have a current OSRP? I believe they do. I don't know the year of it, but I think theirs is current.
And how does that look at that property up there? Similar to the way we're looking at it?
Well, I would have to go back and look specifically, but the side of the Nokia site that's in Berkeley Heights is already developed. So I would imagine it's not, again, as the mayor said, this was we only found out recently that they might not be here. So.
But we have known this is coming for years. There's no doubt about it. And where I'm tinkering now in my head, having this be the latest news, is that if they have a plan and if we have a plan and there's a county park on the far side of it with a golden opportunity to connect the three communities and to add recreation.
Agreed. And without having seen their current recreation goals, I do know that open space in this area for them is a priority.
For them, referring to Berkeley Heights?
For Berkeley Heights,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Yes.
And if we can get on board with them and acquire stuff within I call it the 500 feet from the middle of Mountain Avenue into that property. I mean, that's a lot of land, and it's level. It requires nothing to do as long as they don't touch it. And we would be in Schaefer City, so. And then right behind it, if our neighbors were doing the same thing, and we could get federal and state money and get the county to connect there, all of a sudden we would have access to a large recreational area and make everybody pretty happy.
Yeah, it would be an ideal space for some additional, no pun intended, it would be an ideal location for additional open space, absolutely. Which again is why, out of all of what's happening in the borough, when we wrote this, we had not heard the news because that was just released Friday. And again, nobody told us, the newspaper did, but it's still the most likely of something to happen right now. So having this in our recreation plan is a good it's a good tool for the borough because it is still a master plan element. So we can still, again, even though it's a little different and it's green acres, we can still refer back to this in the recommendations. Say, see, we've already targeted this neighborhood, and you happen to be the one that's going to be available. So it gives us a good tool in our toolkit.
And how much of the front lawn is in New Providence? You said 500?
I call it 500 feet.
400 feet.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
4 football fields.
yeah. So
From
what
the street
I
towards the building.
have done
Wow.
in my head, you stand on the
Oh, no,
double
one
yellow
football,
line
One point, one point.
and look into the building, and that from Glenside to Diamond Hill, that's in our town.
So you-
Just look that way, and that's a
But we're
huge.
just speculating.
Yeah,
We've been that,
Absolutely.
we were in talks with Nokia, how many years ago?
like 3 years.
And they had a big plan. And the president they left, we hadn't heard anything for 3 years. And, the one thing you have to understand, Berkeley Heights, they get a lot of tax revenue out of that facility. They're not just gonna make that open space and lose all that money. So, there's a lot that goes into this. And if you make it open space, or a park, they don't get any tax revenue.
And it's really, if we were to look at that property as a whole, including the whole piece that's in Berkeley Heights, it's too big for a singular park in this location. But
Right.
to your,
Understand,
but
that's
again,
not what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
I'm talking
yeah.
about a slice that connects us to the county park.
right, which I
which
agree with. Yeah.
They're gonna have to have travel ways and pathways and whatever they do in there. And if, just keep, even if our plan is.
Are you getting over
not even a
78?
plan. Excuse
How
me?
you getting over 78?
Well, either way, there's a good opportunity though to have park space here. I think it
There's bridges over 78 already.
Yeah, okay, whatever. We're just,
I think
Pie
we're
in
I
the
think we're
sky.
agreeing though. Like we are agreeing that this is a good opportunity for an open space area. Yeah.
All right, sorry for thinking.
It's a good, no, but that's why we targeted it. And the plan has also an action plan. Again, this is required, breaking it up into short-term, medium-term, long-term, and ongoing items. Short-term being things that should be implemented immediately or within the next 6 months or so. Medium to long-term, we're talking a year to 5 years. And obviously ongoing are things happening on an ongoing basis. The bulk of the plan itself, the text has quite a bit of, there's discussion about recommended upgrades to specific parks because those are upgrades we know that are likely to happen soon and we know are problematic. Based on discussions through the public outreach meeting last year, as well as with Allison Smith and the Recreation Department. So some of those are, so the purpose of the action plan is to incorporate some of those broader recommendations we already have in here. And some of these are very, very specific. Like in the short term, we were pursuing the Green Acres grant funding for the upgrades to Oakwood Park. Others are, when we move on to the medium term, they're a little broader to, for example, the first bullet here is analyze existing facilities and identify improvements and modifications to enhance accessibility for the borough's aging residents. That's what I was talking about earlier. There may be opportunities to analyze park by park from an engineering standpoint, but allowing it to stay broad allows the borough to have a little more flexibility here. And again, just because a project isn't specifically called out word for word in this plan doesn't mean that it can't happen. It's not, again, that's where it's a little different than a master plan where in our land use element, we want to call out specific zone changes or else it's much more burdensome later to make those zone changes. For the open space and recreation plan, having these recommendations and these analyses being up to date allows the borough to seek funding for really whatever they want under the Green Acres program. So those are the significant benefits to having this plan in place. We have a few longer term, which would be what, the first one being the potential acquisition or development of parkland at the Nokia Bell Labs or the Murray Hill neighborhood, potential flood resilient parks. And ongoing, of course, there's, to maintain the existing facilities and necessary improvements, and monitor the facility and recreation programs, those types of operational issues that are already happening. That's not something we wouldn't get as specific for in this plan. The recreation department would be able to fend those issues as they come up, but those would be ongoing maintenance items to work on. And that's it. I mean, of course, the plan's about 30 pages long. These were highlights. It's mostly analyses of what the existing conditions are and some broader recommendations based on what we heard from public outreach and discussions with the recreation department. So happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, I just have one map question on where, I don't know what page it was. The easiest one is the open space inventory. So it's pretty about the 5th or 6th slide in.
This one?
There we go. Okay, so if you look at where Oakwood Park is, and then to the northeast of that, there's that, I'll call it a triangle right at the river,
Can you
where
use,
the easement's going through there,
can you, I'm
and
sorry.
then you have private property and all that. What is that designated at? I don't understand.
Can
what
you
it-
direct me with the numbers and the letters that are on this map?
Hmm?
There's numbers and letters. Can you tell
Yeah,
me
number
which?
one, Oakwood Park.
Number one,
Yeah.
okay.
So if you look at the one that, it's a very most northern piece, right?
Right.
So then right next to it, there's something that's not colored in,
This triangle piece here?
that little triangle
Yeah.
piece. What is that designated at? Because that's underneath the high tension wires, right behind
Right, these-
Woodbine, and it's all woods and it's fields. And it's where
That's where
actually
the high tension wires.
It's
go.
below the high tension wires, correct?
part of it is.
Part
and
of it is,
isn't.
yeah.
They
So-
probably have an easement. for
But
that.
those high tension wires go right through Oakwood Park. So I'm just wondering why it's designated differently. That's the only question. That's all I'm asking is.
Sure, okay.
Is there some difference between the two?
So it is borough owned. It's not on the recreation and open space inventory, which is again, this inventory that is part of the Green Acres record. But it is borough owned and unlikely to be developed because it's under those power lines. It could absolutely be added to the
Well, that's
Rossi.
what I'm wondering.
Yeah.
Why it's not on there, because basically, one of the things I saw was the whole thing about box turtles and this and that. No, seriously. So
Yeah.
about, this summer, I go through there all the time. I mean, my dog just 2 days ago was chasing a fox through there, but there's box turtles in there. There's all sorts of stuff in there. So I'm just wondering why it's not part of Green Acres, why it's just designated borough owned. Over on the other side of it, where it's the DEP, I understand that.
Yeah.
So that's it's
Yeah,
just a question.
It's a good question, and
that's all.
I can't speak to the reason why it hasn't been added to the Rossi. I think it's important to remember that even if a property's not on the Rossi, doesn't mean it's not protected.
Okay.
But I do think it would, given where that one is and the location, how it's nestled up between other Rossi properties, it would be appropriate for the borough to seek an amendment to the Rossi to have it included.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the only thing. I just didn't know if it was why it was designated differently. That's all.
Yeah. And
That's
again, I don't know the original reason, but it would be completely appropriate if the borough chose to do. And again, having this updated plan will allow them to do that very easily if they choose to.
Yeah, it's basically brush.
Yeah.
Now, so it's good for water. All right. That was my only question. Anybody up here have questions?
That was a great presentation.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good summary of what the plan is.
My pleasure.
All right, Amanda, do you have any questions?
I do not.
I do want to say if the board chooses to move forward to adoption tonight, there are a few typos that I've already discussed with Amanda that we've agreed are minor in nature, and I'm not going to put them on the record. There was one item that Allison Smith asked for us to include, and it was omitted by mistake simply because I thought the improvement had already happened. But there was a 2021, the borough received $70,000 funding to repave the municipal recreation walking path at the tennis court facility. There's been an extension of that grant to 2024, and Allison informed me that will be happening within the next 6 months. So
That's all happening because we don't know where the pickleball.
Exactly.
is and stuff.
Yeah, so we, and again, I've spoken with Amanda about this, but we are going to amend on under the action plan short-term items, we're going to just make sure that it's clear that that's a component of the tennis court improvements.
That's ongoing.
That's ongoing, yeah. So that was the only one that was slightly substantive, but spoke with Amanda and we agreed that because it's factual and it's something that's already happened in the process of being implemented, that it didn't warrant a substantial change to
Yeah,
the
part of
plan.
it's done.
Because part of it's already done, yeah. So we just want to make sure that it's accounted for in this. I thought it already happened because of the date of it, but I was mistaken, so.
I do have a question. I mentioned it. You're saying the needs. Is the expansion of the community garden considered a need? Because I know there's a waiting list to get in there, I believe, to have a
They've
garden.
already expanded it.
And is
I
that,
think
is
there's
that going to
4 more
meet the need?
plots being put in.
So I know it's expanded to 37 beds from I think 28. So that is a local need. The needs analysis that we do, a very specific need, I should say, from the borough's perspective. The needs analysis are the broader, is there access to open space and recreation? That's the broader analysis that we do. But that's absolutely, if the borough chooses to expand that, that's a completely appropriate use of the Green Acres funds that could be done easily. I shouldn't say easily, but it would be an appropriate application.
So it's a framework in which all the specific things you can put under it, and then that's what you go after your funding.
That'd be great.
No questions up here? I'd like to open that up to the public to see if there's anybody has any questions or comments on this. Seeing someone. Come on up, and then Amanda, I guess you have to get sworn in and whatever, or not.
It's technically not a
I'm
hearing, but we'll do it
asking
anyway.
questions. I don't know what, I may not tell the truth. Who knows?
Let's just swear you
Well,
in.
that could be the case.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Or
I
affirm.
affirm that I'm going to tell the truth and ask questions. I'm not swearing on any God.
Sure, and your name and address?
Alan Swanson, 47 Overhill Road.
Thank you.
Oh, I have a couple of questions. Are the documents related to the public opinion on November 29th? Are there any minutes or anything from that meeting that you used to put this together?
We have internal minutes, so I wasn't. Sorry, is this picking me up, Margaret? I wasn't part of that hearing. I took this project over from someone who's no longer at HGA, but we have, the day after the meeting, my former colleagues, Elena and Ani, came back and typed up all the notes. I believe they had a board they were writing notes on. They formalized those into the computer. I don't know if there was formal minutes taken by a secretary. I'm not sure of that.
I don't think so.
Well, I mean, I was at the meeting. It just seems that there are a lot of things that were covered at the meeting that aren't really addressed in this document. What is the process moving forward on this? I mean, there was some confusion as to whether or not this was a hearing or.
It's a review process to make sure it's in compliance with the master plan. That's the point. We don't.
Well, it's to adopt it as an element of the master plan.
Yeah, so it'd be adopted as an element.
And then assuming if the board chooses to adopt it tonight, then we submit it to Green Acres for their files.
I'm sorry, would be.
I'm sorry, if the board chooses to adopt tonight, we will submit the plan to Green Acres for their files. That would be the next step.
So there wouldn't be any other opportunity for citizens to comment on this document other than at this moment?
I think the rec department.
The rec
has done
department
all
didn't
of
even know that
and
this
then
was
we're
happening
here to
tonight.
look at what they've written,
I'm sorry?
and we're here to look at what was developed and determine if it should be adopted into the master plan.
I
that's
spoke
a
with the person who
recreation
wrote the
department.
master plan in 2006 today, and she said she had no knowledge of this document. Then she found the document. Found the document and showed it to me and said, I haven't read it.
I don't know who
Today.
that was.
Who's this?
I'm not mentioning names anymore because last time I did, I was accused of, there was some issue about my having
So I
private
don't
meetings with
understand your
people.
question. Can you?
The question
I mean, I
is
can-
that the recreation department, first of all, they're not represented here on it, which I find interesting. And the second thing is this, I mean, how, I was told today that they have a 5-year plan, but it's not, I asked, was it something that was on paper? And they said, no. So I'm just trying to find out what the process is here. I mean,
So
they say they have a 5-year plan. Is this going to supersede that plan?
No, they're two different things. So the recreation department likely has an operational plan where, for example, if they want to change the, the senior center has Zumba classes and those types of offerings, that's run by the recreation department. They will have an operational plan for how those may evolve over the next 5 years, as you say. That's not the type of programming that we would put in an open space and rec plan, not specific classes that would be offered, for example. That's their plan for moving their programs forward, but this is the borough's plan for moving the broader goals and objectives forward. I did speak with Allison Smith today about the plan. She's read it and had a couple minor comments, which the one I read to you guys, the others were typos, but she had no other concerns about the plan.
Yeah, I asked her if she was going to be here this evening. She said she had no plans to be here. My concern is that there's actually some discussion about official documents versus unofficial documents and that sort of thing. And this will become an official document. Is that?
Yes, it'll be part of the master plan.
Okay, and says that the plan will supersede the 2006 plan and any previous versions.
The 2006 plan is not up to standards with the current Green Acres regulation, so it has to supersede it.
I understand
Yeah.
the motivation to get the standards with
Yeah, so it has to by nature supersede it.
Okay, then, I mean, I guess if there's not going to be additional input from the citizens, there are a couple of things in here that are not going to happen. For example, there's a suggestion in here that putting synthetic turf on the BD field. I can't see how that would be possible. It's right next to an identified flood area that feeds directly into the downtown flood area. And if you put in a synthetic turf field there, besides the fact that they're just not really appropriate, you're just going to increase. It's not consistent with the notion that we should put in green infrastructure, and then there to be a suggestion in the same document that says we might not consider putting in a synthetic field. They're inconsistent. Green infrastructure is the opposite of a turf field. And the only reason I bring that's the most glaring example. And the reason that I bring that up is because it's that. I'm trying to understand how that inconsistency isn't addressed in here. I just have a real concern about the process. I mean, this document was apparently released on November 30th, and here we are on December 12th having a presentation in order to do the final approval so that it can go on to Green Acres at the state level. I just feel like there should be more transparency,
Bureaucracy.
more openness to the public to participate in the process.
We did have the the public information last year. And then under the MLUL, there's only a 10-day notice requirement, as you probably know.
I really don't, requirements are not what I'm talking
I know.
about. It just bothers me that you're putting a document that you're going to be considered the final document based on information collected over a year ago at a meeting that we don't have any documentation on that this document was created. And there, having been at that meeting, I think there are a number of things in here that there's a couple of broad statements like, I was there and I talked about having pathways were mentioned and bike parking areas and that sort of thing, and they're mentioned in here. But there are a number of other things related to that meeting, which was, I thought, intended to be talking about the overall recreation program and what should be happening. And now I don't think any people understood that, well, out of this is going to become a replacement.
Well, that was
For
some
the
of the
master
pieces that
plan.
go into
I'm sorry?
this.
Yeah, and I do have the presentation that was given, and it does say specifically in that presentation that this is a new plan replacing the 2006 plan. So that, again, I wasn't there, but I have the presentation that was given. So there, my understanding is there was discussion of what this plan was in relationship to the 2006 plan.
Well, yeah, that was why I was interested in if there were any minutes or anything taken, because, I mean, it is over a year ago. And while I have an excellent memory, I don't recall exactly that was what it is, but I'll take your word for it. So I guess that, I mean, that's overall, that's just my concern, is that there are some issues in here. And the only other thing is that I'm not sure, what's the process? This is voted on tonight, and it goes to Green Acres, and now it's the plan for open space and recreation. What is the next step? I mean, it says you should be doing these things within a year. It's in
I
there.
think McKinley explained it. If we don't have this plan up to date, we cannot go for funding for Green Acres money. And that's the key to everything. You're talking about the turf of the field. Well, Green Acres isn't going to give you money to turf a field, you know?
And I should clarify that point because I know that's a sticking point. There's new technology. We were taking that recommendation from certain resiliency parks we've seen being developed in other parts of the state where, and again, it is a lofty goal, but it could be an opportunity to do subsurface stormwater retention with certain turf materials on the top that would be appropriate for filtration. But again, that's a lofty goal, but
Yeah.
if we don't, it was, an
I mean,
idea.
the cost of a turf field is lofty, as you said.
But for example, I know the recreation department intends to apply first thing in the new year for funding, again, for the improvements to the playground to make it accessible for children. So that's something that's going to happen in the immediate. And I know, again, a lot of the recommendations that were in there, including and putting a new playground in Warner Park. These are all things that they meaning the recreation department and the borough, will be able to seek funding for with a current plan. And there could be things that aren't in this plan, like we've
That can
already
be
talked
added
about.
later. It's the basis,
And
it's a foundation.
framework.
And the
to work
nice,
with.
yeah, and that's actually, it is a benefit of this framework versus some of the other master plan elements where if another park improvement comes up, we do not have to amend this plan to include that park improvement. The simple act of having an updated plan will allow you to get that funding. Having said that, if the borough chooses, you don't have to wait 10 years to do your next open space plan. If something changes, it can be done at any time you choose. So they're living documents to an extent. The old one was 17 years old and didn't conform. So
Well, I understand the rationale of being able to be required to be up to date and in compliance in order to be able to get the funds. I absolutely understand that this document exists for that purpose, and should exist for that purpose. I'm other than some of the other information that's in here is what I'm concerned about.
If it's more on the specifics, those things have to go through a whole process to even be, they go through engineering and everything else anyway. That could be, like you said, this is if they determine that, oh, you can't do that, we can't do something, I don't know what it is, because it's just not practical, then just because it's in there, those are examples of things that can happen. I think the other is that the rec department, I'm pretty sure they still do, has meetings in which people can go in and request things to do for the future. Some of the things that you were just suggesting. I know more places to park your bikes and things like that. That came up, I think, in this meeting, but it also had come up in other things where people were saying we really need to do that, and they're happening. So there's other vehicles. This is the foundation, the basis to work from. And then on that, you build everything that happens. And I think, so that's, I think, some of the opportunities and ideas that you have might be more appropriate to go on those specific pieces, rather than, this piece that just sets everything up to be able to add on to it. That's what I'm thinking.
It's a good explanation. Yeah, I would agree.
Good explanation. I agree.
Okay.
I just wanted to express that I just really think it's really, really important to provide as many opportunities to make these kinds of documents and what goes into them as open and available to the public as possible.
Okay.
That's
good input.
that's my kind
And
of
the other is these documents need to be broad, right? And in the sense of that you don't want to put yourself in a corner and not have something that we can't foresee today in the future. Have it open enough that we can accommodate other things. That's why some of the language in there is more broad than that. And then the specifics we go from. So
that's why I agreed that your explanation was very good, and I'm pleased
thank
with
you.
it.
Anything else you?
No, that's it.
All right, good. I appreciate your comments. It was
Thank you.
wow, right?
Yeah, they were very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Hi.
Can I just swear you in? Yep, raise your hand, right hand. Do you swear?
Right hand.
Yes. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
To the best of my recollection, yes.
Thank you. And your name and address?
Donna Zane, 54 Brookside Drive.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, could you say that a little louder?
Donna Zane, 54 Brookside.
Thank you.
Hi.
To the confusion from the meeting a year ago, while yes, it was a recreation open park plan, I think many of the attendees went very hard on the recreational offerings, classes, pickleball, things like that. So I think those of us in attendance may have lost a bit of the thread going back to the open space. I mean, I think that's what happened. I don't
I don't
remember
understand
the intent
yeah.
of the meetings because, I don't always read the fine print, but I believe during the meeting, things
Got off track
Derailed.
and got
Yes.
specific.
I certainly understand that. And that happens quite a bit. In
So that's
my
why,
line of work.
best of my recollection, that's why I was like, yeah. Okay, those of you who know me know I'm a huge proponent of passive recreation, not the formal offerings. I'm very curious about the new quarter-mile gap thing because I've been big on connectivity and trying to encourage the planning board to keep those little pockets of land that kids can use as cut-throughs for all the sidewalks and things like that I've been pursuing for years.
Like we did over the Bard property when from Roberts. When they were looking at that, they were going to cut that off, and kids used to go through there to get over. And that's the kind of thing you're talking about.
Right, yeah, the back parkway to
Yeah.
AWR, when the DPW paved that for us, and now the bridge has been fixed, things like, yes, I've been on top of, I'm pursuing that for a lot. The reason I was here is one thing, like I've been working with the police and things like that on you call it the Blue Way, I call it the Green Path, going from basically, Lions Park all the way to Veterans Park along the brook. The other big one that I remember Cecile, Andre, and I discussing about 3 years ago, which you pretty much just brought up, is now that we don't know what's up with the Nokia property. If you go straight from Ryder Way, straight cut across, as if you could cut through, everything west of that, I believe, is essentially it's Watchung. It's beautiful hiking area right here, our side of 78. So when you're trying to negotiate with Berkeley Heights, anything you can do to preserve that, because I'm not sure how much of that they can touch due to the land itself. But the other thing I remember discussing is, we were trying to do our crosstown things. There's the Passaic, there's the Blue Way through the middle of town, and then Mountain Ave, because we do own some of the land. Cecile and I were strongly pushing for like a class 1 bike lane either along Mountain Ave, which Berkeley Heights might go for, because that is a safe route to school thing to get their kids to Governor Livingston. But also, as you were talking about, if you go a bit down Diamond Hill and then cut across on McMain, that gets you to Watchung. And so we were trying to very hard push for bike access. And I think there is a large enough segment of the population. I mean, I know my biking days might not pull that off anymore, but I think there's a large segment of the population that would be interested in that sort of recreational biking and walking for the kids who really can walk, because I had a kid who would bike over to UCBTS. So it would have been awesome if I had a safe way to send him, but but things like that's all my thing is when I'm looking at this, and I know it's Berkeley Heights property and it's only so much we can do, but if you haven't walked behind 890 Mountain Ave, you haven't gone back there and seen those trails, please, please, please do so, because it is beautiful and it is basically Watchung right here, and it addresses your giant open area along Mountain Ave, the southeast corner. If we can then get connectivity up to there, I think that would be a huge bonus for the residents of this town to have that right here. Okay, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Great, thank you. That's a good point about Mountain Avenue. That gets opened up and they can put a bike lane along there, separated somehow,
Yeah.
enough room.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I know the county's looking to reconstruct Mountain Avenue, but I think they're waiting to see
What's happening?
exactly what's going to happen up there. So it's their road. So,
Yes.
but they do ask us. So
Okay. Anybody else have any kind of questions, comments on this? We appreciate, we'll close out. I appreciate your time in coming up and give us that information, because it's things just happen. As a matter of fact, it's funny, one of the meetings, somebody mentioned something and now we're actually projecting things all over for everybody. So we listen. So, anything else on your part? Are you pretty good?
No, I'm good. I just wanted to add something based on what you just said, that this board has been really good at acknowledging the needs of the community in the applications you review. And I think, having the up-to-date plan is helpful, but you guys live in the community, so you see what's happening. And when we had the Bard site come in for site plan, this board insisted that they open up the gates so that any school children or anybody who wants to can access Commerce Way below in that pathway. So you've proactively worked to do things that weren't in any specific plan already, but knowing the needs of the community. So I think it's important to just recognize your achievements also as a board. And having this updated plan will allow the borough to keep seeking that plethora of grant funding that's out there and continue to improve the sites.
Thank you. So I guess, this would be a motion and a specific individual vote, right?
Yes.
So would somebody like to make a motion that we have reviewed and determined that the open space and recreation plan be included as part of the master plan, an element in the master plan?
So moved.
But with the typos I indicated earlier, fixed.
Whatever, as amended, as to be amended.
And am I correct, and I will second that, and then for discussion, am I correct, then it goes to council, and then council makes the decision?
No, this is a master plan. This is all
Okay,
you.
so-
This stuff.
Yeah,
It's,
this is your document.
it doesn't need a second
Nope.
acceptance. Okay. So I do second.
Are you ready? Mr. Castagna,
Yes.
Mr. Kaminsky,
Yes.
Mr. Hofling,
Yes.
Mayor Morgan,
yes,
Mr. Sartorius.
Yes.
Mr. Jermansky,
Yes.
and Chairman Lesnowich.
Yes.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for the summary presentation. That was really good. Thank you, everybody. Next up, do we have any other communication items?
I'll
No?
make a motion for adjournment.
Oh, we have to
Wait,
do the
wait, wait,
minutes
wait.
first.
Nice try. Nice try. Everybody sit tight.
Everybody, the revised minutes went out today.
Oh, yeah,
Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, seeing none. Last call, anything we want to discuss? This is it for this year, right? Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you for all your
Talk about a
time.
good time, huh?
Yeah. All right. I know the mayor wants to make the final motion.
Yes, I do. Motion for adjournment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Billy.
Thank you, everybody, for all your support. Once again.
Negotiation.